Hi everybody, welcome to Sukh Vibes. In today's video, we are going to cover 18 questions related to pedestrians, which falls under the main topic of other road traffic, specifics and behavior. Let's begin. You are driving in the left-hand lane of a two-lane one-way street. About 30 meters in front of you, a truck comes to a stop in the right-hand lane before a pedestrian crossing. What should you do? So what should you do? If there is a pedestrian crossing, always remember you have to approach at a moderate speed. This you have to learn by heart. This you have to make a practice while driving. I continue driving swiftly, wrong. I approach at a moderate speed, this is correct. I give a warning signal and drive past the truck, this is incorrect. Moving towards the next. What should you do? So what we see here, there is a sign which indicates that this is the pedestrian crossing. And from here you can also see two pedestrians who want to cross the road. Let's look at the option. Wait to allow pedestrians to cross the road? Yes, because on the pedestrian crossing, pedestrians have the priority. Continue driving because there is a sufficient time before the pedestrian have reached my side of the road. This is incorrect. Continue driving because there are pedestrians on the left side of the road only. This is also incorrect. Always approach pedestrian crossing with a moderate speed and you have to wait. You have to allow the pedestrians to cross the road. Let me also show you in the ebook. So for zebra crossings or pedestrian crossings are established to provide pedestrians with greater safety when they are crossing the road. These are indicated by traffic signs and the road marking. So the road marking is here and the traffic sign is here. In order that pedestrians and drivers of invalid vehicles and wheelchairs users can make use of their priority at pedestrian crossing, driver must show that they are going to stop in good time. What does it mean? The pedestrians or the wheelchair users, they have the priority on the pedestrian crossing. Therefore, you have to brake in good time. You have to approach the pedestrian crossing with a moderate speed. This is done by driving at moderate speed, being prepared to brake and make eye contact with the pedestrian. So you have to approach the pedestrian crossing with a moderate speed. If there is a pedestrian, you have to be ready to brake. If your view of the crossing is obstructed or another vehicle is already waiting there, so this is the situation which is similar to the question that we have done before, that there is a truck on your right hand side. The crossing must be approached with extra caution. Then you have to be approaching the crossing with the extra caution. Braking in good time also prevents rear end collision. So if there's already a vehicle which has obstructed your view, then you have to approach this pedestrian crossing with the extra caution. And as I said, always approach with a moderate speed and be ready to brake. A cyclist wishes, without dismounting, to cross the road at a pedestrian crossing. What should you do? I only brake just short of the pedestrian crossing. This is incorrect. I sound my horn and continue driving without giving way to the cyclist. This is incorrect. I allow the cyclist to cross the road. This is the correct thing to do. If the cyclist wants to cross the road through a pedestrian crossing without dismounting, you should allow the cyclist to cross the road. What must you anticipate with the traffic islands like this? You might have seen these traffic islands before as well, right? So what you have to anticipate in this kind of situation? Pedestrians thinking that they have the right of way over the road traffic. Whenever there is a traffic island, pedestrians think that they have the priority. Pedestrians always respect the right of way for vehicles. This is incorrect. Whenever they want to cross the road, they just want to cross the road without thinking any right of way for vehicles. Cyclist crossing the road without paying attention to the traffic. This is also correct. Here you can see the cyclist who wants to cross the road through this traffic island. Let me show you also over here. Crossing aids. So-called crossing aids or traffic islands are designed to make it easier for pedestrians to cross the road in stages. Means they can cross the road, come to middle, and from middle then they can cross the rest of the road. Pedestrians do not have the priority of the traffic but frequently believe this to be the case. Though pedestrians do not have priority over the traffic, but still they believe they have the priority. Car drivers should therefore drive carefully and watch out for persons who are carelessly crossing the road. So you have to be cautious and pay attention to the pedestrians who are crossing the road without paying any attention to the coming traffic. What is the minimum distance you must leave clear when stopping or parking in front of a pedestrian crossing? So for this, let me show you over here. Vehicles must keep zebra crossing free if the traffic is moving at snail's pace so that they will not obstruct pedestrian. The first rule is you always have to keep the pedestrian crossing free. Even if the traffic is moving at snail's pace, means the traffic is moving very slowly. You have to keep the pedestrian crossings free. For the protection of pedestrians, the following rules apply at zebra crossing. Overtaking is not permitted. This is important. Whenever you are approaching zebra crossing, overtaking is not permitted. Be careful if there are several lanes for one direction. Then you have to pay extra attention. So as not to obstruct the view of drivers and pedestrians at crossings, stopping is prohibited both on them and up to 5 meters in front of them. You cannot stop on the pedestrian crossing and up to 5 meters in front of them. Stopping is not allowed. So what is the minimum distance you must leave clear when stopping or parking in front of pedestrian crossing? Now this is clear. It is 5 meters. Why we have to keep this distance? So that we don't obstruct the pedestrian crossing. In front of you is a pedestrian crossing beyond which the traffic in your lane is backed up. What should you do? Wait on the pedestrian crossing if there is no one in sight. You cannot wait on the pedestrian crossing. We have seen in the previous question also, stopping or parking on the pedestrian crossing is not allowed. Wait on the pedestrian crossing to shorten the traffic jam? Incorrect. Come to stop before the pedestrian crossing to allow people to cross. This is the correct option to do. You are driving on this road which is not inside a built up area. What should you prepare yourself for? So what we see here, there is a parking sign and then there is a sign for moving around the forest and this arrow sign which shows on the right side you can park if you want to wander around in the forest. And what else? The road seems icy, snow. The road is narrow, this is clear. Pedestrians walking only off the road, this is incorrect because in this situation there is ice on both sides of road. So pedestrians, they will also use this road. They are not going to walk off the road. Pedestrian using the road, this is correct. What is the right course of action here? So what we see here, we are inside the city and there is a sign that this is the pedestrian crossing, but somehow it is now covered with the ice. And here you can see pedestrian who wants to cross the road. I brake carefully, correct, because otherwise due to the ice on the snow, it could cause skidding or sliding of your vehicle. I allow the pedestrian on the right to cross the road. This is correct because pedestrian is having the priority on the pedestrian crossing. I carefully continue driving because there are no markings visible on the road. This is incorrect. Even the markings are not visible. Still we have this sign which shows here is the pedestrian crossing. So you should approach with a moderate speed. You should brake carefully in order to avoid any skidding and allow the pedestrian to cross the road. Moving towards the next, what should you do? So what we see over here, a pedestrian crossing sign and the pedestrians who wants to cross the road. Brake early to clearly indicate to the pedestrians that I am allowing them to cross. So brake beforehand, brake in time to give sign to the pedestrians that you are allowing them to cross. Continue driving even if the pedestrians stop briefly. This is incorrect. This could cause collision. Moreover, the pedestrians, they are having the priority on the pedestrian crossing. Arc around the pedestrians to avoid impeding the falling traffic. This is also incorrect. Your stopping distance from the pedestrian crossing should be 5 meters in order to not to obstruct the pedestrians. So this is incorrect. What conduct must you expect of children at zebra crossing? If there are kids at zebra crossing, what could you expect? They will wait at the curb because they always correctly judge the speed and distance of approaching vehicles. This is incorrect. For kids or for children, it's not easy for them to correctly judge the speed and distance. They will turn around on the zebra crossing for no apparent reason and run back. They are children, so they can do anything. They can run on the zebra crossing. They will run onto the zebra crossing without paying attention to the traffic. This is also correct. Last two options, which shows that any kind of unexpected behavior from children, these are the correct ones. A pedestrian wants to cross the road via the pedestrian crossing. What should you do? I refrain from overtaking. Exactly. When you are approaching a pedestrian crossing, you should not overtake. I overtake the waiting vehicles, taking extra care. Incorrect. I get ready to stop. Yes. So you should apply brakes beforehand in good time and approach the pedestrian crossing with a moderate speed, and you should refrain from overtaking. What is correct in this situation? So what we see over here, a cyclist in front of us, and then there is a pedestrian crossing sign, and here is the pedestrian crossing marking. Here I may overtake the cyclist because there is no oncoming traffic visible. This is incorrect. Though no oncoming traffic is visible, but still you are not allowed to overtake before the pedestrian crossing. only overtake the cyclist at a moderate speed. You're not allowed to overtake. Here I may not overtake the cyclist. This is correct because according to the rule, you should not overtake before the pedestrian crossing. What applies immediately before and on zebra crossing? So before and on zebra crossing, you may not overtake, correct? You may not park, yes, you may not stop. So you cannot do anything before and on zebra crossing like overtaking, parking, stopping. These are not allowed. Why is it particularly important to adopt a defensive driving style when approaching pedestrian crossing? Defensive means you have to be extra cautious, you have to be careful, you should behave as a responsible driver. In order that vehicles falling behind can overtake more easily, incorrect. In order to avoid rear end collision, this is correct because if you are approaching a pedestrian crossing, you are going to reduce your speed. Then the vehicle which is following you, it may collide you from back. So in order to avoid rear end collision, in order that pedestrians are not unduly alarmed, you should not cause any shock to the pedestrian. So this is also important. That's why you should drive with a defensive driving style when approaching pedestrian crossing. What actions should you anticipate from persons at the pedestrian crossing? They will look neither left nor right. This could be expected. Sometimes they turn back halfway across. Yes, if they have forgot something or something they have dropped somewhere, then they will turn back. They will unexpectedly walk onto the road. This is also correct. You could expect any kind of behavior from the pedestrians. In which instances do you have to approach a pedestrian crossing with a particular care? If another vehicle is already waiting at pedestrian crossing, yes. If another vehicle is already waiting at the pedestrian crossing, you have to be extra careful because otherwise it could cause rear end collision. If pedestrian wants to cross the road, this makes sense. So you do not want to cause any kind of danger to the pedestrians. Then you have to approach the pedestrian crossing with a particular care. If the view of the pedestrian crossing is restricted, this is also clear. For example, in front of you, if there's a large vehicle which is obstructing the view of the pedestrian crossing, then you have to be cautious. Moving towards the next, which is a video question. Let's play it. So we are following a blue vehicle. We are inside the city. And here is the sign of the pedestrian crossing. And you see this man? He's running. He wants to cross the road. Let's play it once again. We are inside the city. We are following a blue vehicle. We are driving at 40 km/h. And from the distance, you can see a sign of the pedestrian crossing. And you can also see a man who is running and wants to cross the road. Two problems. What's the right course of action? I continue driving slowly because there is no indication that any pedestrian want to cross the pedestrian crossing. This is incorrect. You have seen in the video, right? There is a man who is coming and he's running. He wants to cross the road. I stop because a man wants to cross the pedestrian crossing. Yes, this is correct thing to do. I stop because the child behind the van is going to walk onto the road. There's no child who is behind the van. Moving towards the next, which is the last question. What should you do in this situation? So what we see over here, we want to turn left. This vehicle also wants to turn left, but there is a cyclist. So this vehicle will stop because of the cyclist. And then there is a pedestrian who wants to cross the road. Like there are too many things in this picture. I allow the pedestrian to cross the road. Yes, you have to allow. I pull up directly behind the blue vehicle. So if you pull up directly behind the blue vehicle, what will you do? In any case, you have to wait, right? Because this vehicle is waiting because of the cyclist. So if you pull up behind the blue vehicle, you will end up stopping on the pedestrian crossing, which is not allowed. I wait this side of the pedestrian crossing until the blue vehicle has made the turn. This is correct. So you have to allow the pedestrian to cross the road. You should not pull along with the blue vehicle because otherwise you will stop on the pedestrian crossing. The correct option is you have to keep a distance of 5 meters from the pedestrian crossing and wait on this side. Let the blue vehicle turn, let the pedestrian cross, only then you can turn. So in this video, we have completed 18 questions related to the pedestrians. Thanks for watching. If you have liked my video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. If you're interested in any particular topic, please feel free to write in comment section. Take care. See you next time.